That's all right, isn't it?
Yeah. Cool.
Some time and change and freezing. The candle burns but never dies. The earthly pressure is so hard to find. Because the earth reduces the space. Trails of slides and scales fall behind. The wake of the fall shapes the mind. Waiting for you to see things you will never see. I don't know where to go now. Waiting for you to see things you will never see. I don't know where to go now.
Okay. Welcome to the Grasslands. That's Bristol. Belgium. It's his first time out. So we're here to talk about grassland corridors. James, can we go back? Is this the first slide? Is it the first slide? Oh, there we are. Oh, there. It's a bit of Somerset there. It's Somerset there. So, I'm an ecologist. I run a little nature protection consultancy. Do a lot of European work. And I thought I'd talk to you a bit about the green belt and wildlife corridors. Go for the next slide, please, James. So what do all these phrases mean? Green belt, ecological networks, ecological connectivity, wildlife corridors, green infrastructure, green space. What do all these things mean? The green belt itself is very different to what you might imagine in your mind. You might think it's a place where we're trying to protect lots of wildlife and make it a very blissful place, but it's not really the purpose of the green belt. So I'll start with that first. You scroll up, please. So the concept of the green belt that originally was conceived around 1914, and around 1935 it was established in policy in this country, and it was an urban planning tool, primarily to, we have over there the representations of the Green Belt in the UK. The London Belt itself is, I think, virtually 3 times the area of London. And we have Birmingham's and Liverpool's and Manchester's. There isn't one around the New Forest anymore because they established the New Forest Green Belt as a national park. But it's to provide a reserve supply to the public and open spaces of recreational areas, establish a green belt or a girdle of open space. The objectives of this are to prevent sprawl of the towns themselves, and to protect the characteristics of the countryside, which is interesting because the countryside as a concept is essentially just the opposite of the town. It doesn't really quite mention wildlife as yet. And it's to assist in urban regeneration. It does that by the green belt itself kind of forcing areas of decay within the towns to be redeveloped and to create new areas of the town as opposed to sprawling out. It's essentially the purpose of it, to stop them merging. The benefits of that are to access to open countryside for urban people, to do polo and all those type of things, and maintain an attractive landscape for you to look at from the town and go, oh, I'm so happy I live here. And we finally get at securing nature conservation interests. And of course the retention of land for agriculture. My arse is in the way for the next bit. Yeah, forestry, feel my arse. And agriculture and stuff. So yeah, that's the purpose of the Green Belt, and that's what it's always been about. Scroll up, please. So, these are some of the problems of the Green Belt. You see, in modern times, we're kind of essentially facing an ecological Armageddon right now. A lot of work's been done on this on how to protect wildlife and the ecosystem processes that fuel them and fuel us. And the question is really that, you know, is environmental sustainability factored into this green belt? And as far as its concept is concerned, it's not. What about the wildlife in these areas? Like, these are all areas that you could define as green countryside open spaces in the green belt, but these are incredibly hazardous areas for any wildlife that exists there. You know, like a tractor with its herbicide spray and forestry plantation that's about to be replanted again. And what have I got over here? Hay bales everywhere. So if you're a mouse across that, like it's not far off trying to cross a motorway, really. So yeah, is the green belt that great for that? Maybe not. Scroll up, please. So, of course, to change the concept of the green belt, or at least change its focus in policy, to make it more focused on ecology and wildlife and for the betterment of everybody, it's probably sensible that this is revised in some form to kind of consider how we're trying to protect wildlife these days, which needs more dynamism than we have right now. We need to allow species to move across fairly large areas of the countryside to cope with climate change, and we need to factor in the severe amount of damage we've already caused. But of course the problem we do have is the people that don't really want that to happen. See, if you live on the border of the green belt, then you have this kind of this more idyllic aspect to your life. You can, whatever it is, what's it there? You can buy Wine and Country magazine. You can live the good countryside life. So if it comes to a policy decision to change that, you know, the retirement age couple that are enjoying their picnic and the countryside, they're not going to be massively happy about this idea of their area becoming further town or urban sprawl. So it halts. So, as always, us as humans, we kind of slow things down.
faces in my town. Everything looks the same. Am I the same? Are you the same? And then the mazes merge. Edges spinning, branches pushing patience from my mind. And I am spending time with friends, making all these dens. We're walking and we're laughing, taking pictures, making fables, and the fairy fades away. Nothing ever changes, everything changed, nothing changes now. Push the ceiling high, focus on the sky. Turn around and see the things that move behind the shadows when you step inside yourself. Reach out your hand and smile, you knew they were there. I fall into squares when I'm alone. Everything looks so to me. Searching for something new. Alone right now is bliss. And pain it twists and turns and never fades away. Nothing ever changes, everything changed, nothing changes now. Push the ceiling high, focus on the sky. Turn around to see the things that move behind the shadows when you step inside yourself. Nothing ever changes, everything changed, nothing changes now. Focus on the sky, turn these feelings high. Turn around to see the things that move behind the shadows when you step inside yourself. Reach out your hand and smile, you knew they were there. Everything changed, nothing changes. Nothing ever changes, 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 everything changed, nothing changes.
Yeah. So the important thing to understand here, next slide please. Oh, actually, don't worry. all about ecological connectivity, which is something that's not really been factored into this yet. So, the general concept of ecological connectivity is that you have the core areas of your species, you know, your mouse, your birds, and allowing them, these are kind of like essentially meta-populations. And these buffer areas, the green areas there, are there to kind of prevent kind of invasion or decay, so you kind of have to have these buffer zones. And these connecting joints here are essentially the corridors in which genetic material can be transferred between meta-populations, which is crucial to preserve, like, even our lives. Like if you wanted to go and have sex with someone over there, you need to be able to get there. If there's a big dangerous road with like scale up a car from a mouse, for you, it's terrifying. Would you really want to try it? No. So this is a crucial thing to understand about all species and how they operate. And that's the same for birds as well, and bats, and for everything. Next slide, please. So, if we're going to continue to develop as humans and not suddenly become medieval people again, we need to be able to factor in how wildlife can be integrated into our system. So this is an example, I think, from the Netherlands of a early stages kind of wildlife bridge. It's not great. Some of the studies kind of show that bears actually hang out at the end of that bridge and they wait for all of the smaller mammals to come over and just eat them. So it's a good shout for the bear. I like it. Next slide, please. And like all of these kind of like otters and frogs, they all need some form of infrastructure. And these things are kind of put in place regularly for like passing places through streams where there's been development. But ultimately, these are very small scale all the time. So if you build a motorway or a development, you know, they might put 2 or 3 of these things in. And the argument being like, that's great that they can still move, but I mean, you now have 3 moving spaces as opposed to an entire kind of network that you can move through. So you have to kind of consider these things. Next slide, please. But the future, as far as I see it, and a lot of other ecologists see it, is more integrating towns and countryside into one thing, into green cities essentially, but proper green cities, as opposed to what we've attempted in this country thus far. So some of these examples are from Singapore. But I mean, this is where the future does need to go, really. So we actually live with wildlife, we can continue our urban existence if we so wish, so we have Wi-Fi and iPods, but equally we can have some birds outside the window. Next slide, please. And yeah, well, that's that, really. I've been Grasslands, that's been Bristol. Thank you very much.